What we're going to be taking a look at is our new Autodesk Navisworks integration with our Sage estimating solution. What we've done is we've created an integration so that you can take the attributes from those objects and generate them, cost them out to the estimating system. And that, by the way, the Navisworks solutions, that we work with both the manage and the simulate applications. So if you're working with either one of those, we can accommodate that workflow. So let's go and jump in. By the way, kind of an agenda here. We'll walk through a PowerPoint, very brief. I don't like to spend a lot of time in PowerPoint, but bring up some concepts. And the other thing is we are keeping everybody on mute today, so we have a clear recording of this that we will distribute to everybody that is on the call, and that way you can share that too with others in your organization, or just have it as a review. Probably be within the 30-minute range. It won't take up, definitely won't take up the full hour for this presentation. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. And really, when I look at what we've done here, is pretty powerful stuff. It's going to save individuals out there, estimators out there, a tremendous amount of time. And what we're pretty proud of is the partnering with Autodesk. Just so you know, we have a best-of-breed philosophy here at Sage. Of course, we are the best estimating solution out there. And we've partnered with eTakeoff, who has the best digital takeoff solution out there, the most customers. And then, of course, Autodesk has the most customers out there working in a CAD environment. Matter of fact, they own probably 80 to 85% of the market utilizes the Revit solution and other Autodesk applications. What we want to do is give you the capability to take advantage of a Revit file and be able to generate that to the estimating system utilizing a tool called Bridge. It's an eTakeoff solution that we're working in, incorporating both 2D and 3D integration through. So when you look at that, just one highlighter for this is, of course, the seamless integration with our estimating solution, and also a predominant partner that we have out there as far as Autodesk is concerned. So let's go ahead and take a look at the process. But before we do, let's jump into our estimating solution. And by the way, if you do own the estimating solution, you'll notice that there's been some changes. We've just come out with the 1711 and made that available, new version, new functionality that we have within that solution. But we've kind of changed some of the functionality, or the way the tabs are associated and the icons are associated on the toolbar. So a lot of things happening as far as the Sage estimating software is concerned. Very exciting times to own the estimating solution. But one thing that I'll say, and then I won't talk about the estimating, or at least what outside of the Navisworks integration is now we have a more efficient, effective way to track alternates, and that's pretty predominant for a lot of our customers out there. So if you want to sit in on our estimating presentation, please do so. We're going to track into this and walk through that process. But as far as the Navisworks integration is concerned, integrating with that model, well, first of all, the concepts of our estimating solution, pretty straightforward. Let's start actually with the basics here. You have a database. Now, this database could be broken out in the 49 or the 16 division, right? In this database, you have items that give us pricing and prompt us for variables. So now we have the variables associated with these items and assemblies. Well, what we want to do is we want to take advantage of that, and I'll go into an assembly as well. So now, rather than just one particular variable or just a few variables, we have multiple variables that you can take advantage of. What we want to do is we want to give you the capability to build off the foundation we have as far as your database is concerned, and take advantage of that so we can cost out those particular models and create an estimate very quickly. So let's close out of this estimate, and let's move into Navisworks. Now, a couple things, just to get into the solution a little bit, depending upon if you work with it or not. What we have over here is a selection tree that illustrates all of the available objects or the objects that have been used to make up this particular takeoff right here. As I jump down in here, we look at walls and so on and so forth. So we've got that information right there, all of those objects that make up this particular model. Down here is the quantification workbook. And by the way, right out of the gate, we're going to save anyone using the system a ton of time. Because what an individual working with Navisworks would have to do today is take objects and move it down into a structure that made sense to them. When I receive this from an architect, unless, of course, you're a design build or an architectural firm, where you can actually determine the way that you break these out and standardize the way that you build a structure up here. But now what they had to do is, if they didn't, is go through the process of creating the structure. It could be a 16 or a 49 division breakout, and move these objects into that structure so it made sense to them. Don't have to do that anymore because we're going to use the estimating system as the structure, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing that you look at here is the properties. Of course, the attributes for this object over here are these objects. A lot of information, a lot of stuff that goes along with this. Matter of fact, we could have over 250 properties for each one of these objects. That's a lot of information to sift through. That's, again, why the quantification workbook exists. So what we can do is we can go over here to eTakeoff. You'll notice there's a new tab right here. We're going to bring up a panel. And this panel will give us a few things. First of all, give us the capability to sync information and details to the quantification workbook. So now what we look at down here is, for the estimator, we're going to derive all of the quantities that make sense to them. Length, width, height, all of that good stuff right there. And we're going to have a summary of all of those walls and the individual information. So that's what the quantification workbook, of course, does. We're going to leverage that as far as the takeoff is concerned. The other thing that just popped up here, of course, was the panel. This is the integration piece between these two. So it allows us to speak with it. So we've got a basic wall right here. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and set up integration. This is our bridge. And by the way, this bridge, of course, can exist on any other screen. And if you're doing takeoff, this type of takeoff, it's important to have multiple screens that you can work with. So I could move this over to my other screen, and now it exists over there. We see the model right here. But in this case right here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a bridge. And let's call this today's presentation. We'll put a 1 behind it. I think I already have one named that. And by the way, what we've done is, and this is kind of speaking to the future, but since I'm on it right now, is we've made it so that you could map to multiple architects. So multiple architects may have objects, and those attributes may be broken out in a different way, right? So they have their own objects, or the same object, but they have different attributes associated. So what we can do is we can map and save that mapping for multiple architects, and then utilize it just by having it broken out right here. So it don't matter if you just work with one architect or multiple architects, we can contain all of the mapping that you're going to see. And then let's just add an estimate here. We can add an estimate on the fly. We'll call it Navisworks. Integration, let's call it that. And make sure that we're using the proper database here. I've got tons of them, so we just want to make sure that we're using the right one. Say OK. And Navisworks, and we'll pick that NWD. So you notice now we've got the database. And like I mentioned, the database is the structure for you. So any item that you take off will conform to the structure that you've built within our estimating system. Pretty cool stuff. So let's start walking through the process of doing some takeoff. By the way, you see all the items, all the assemblies. They can be generated to the estimate right from here. Boom, done. In this case, right, what we're going to do is we're going to use this wall assembly and do a takeoff. And very simply, what we're going to do is pinpoint a wall down here. Let's call it this basic wall. First of all, give you the flexibility to change a name. So if the naming convention doesn't work for you, or you just want to add on to the end of that, we most definitely can. We'll just say level 1. So now we've added that extension. We can take advantage of, leverage that information, and you'll be able to see what we can do. Now we'll just drag and drop on top of this particular assembly. Now you notice these are the variables from our assembly. Pretty powerful stuff. Here are the attributes or the properties from that object. You're going to notice some coloring right here because we've mapped these two together. Mapping is no harder than doing this. Just drag and drop. That's all you got to do. Drag and drop, and that once mapped, always mapped, and you're going to see the huge benefit of what we're going to be able to do with that. Answer any one of these additional questions right here, and now what we're going to do is generate quantities for all of these items. Now the other thing that we'll look at here, let's drag this over here just a bit, is you'll notice that in this guy right here, remember how I put level 1 in there as a naming convention? I took that and I'm using that as a location down there as well. So if you want to dissect the information by location or WBS codes, or however you may want to do that, you can definitely get that accomplished. So move this over just a tad, and let's send this over into the estimating system. What's next? Okay, well, let's go ahead and take 4 walls now and do the same process. I want to change the name. Let's just call level 2 instead so we can break that out and see the difference. Drag and drop on top of that. And now in this situation, what I want to do is I want to use a naming convention for this, right? So I'm going to call this 4 walls. And now I also want to make a note in there. There's a notation right here. Great. Say OK. Now we've got 4 passes lined up underneath this one takeoff right here. I'm just going to simply hit the plus button and send them over to estimating. So now we can go ahead and increase the speed of doing takeoff right there, but we're going to take it a step further in a moment. But at this point, let's go to the estimate. Let's open up that estimate right there and see exactly what we've done. By the way, we've got this. I'm going to change the look and feel in here. Let's use a layout that I always like to use. My layout. And now you can see all of that information. Let's move this guy and hide him. So we've taken that off, and really typically what you would do just to pretty it up is combine all the like items right there. And now we've got all of the costs with the totals. We'd have to add our markups and add-ons, of course. But we've got that estimate set up, or at least started the cost for that. Now, the other thing that you look at here is I want to be able to break out the information and see it the way I want to see it. So in assembly, remember the one that I called 4 walls? Well, now I go into that audit trail, and I can see 4 passes lined up there with the notation. So now you've downstream from that. You've got the capability to see any of those notes and go through the review process. We're good to go. But last but not least, the location that I used. Remember, location level 1, level 2. We're utilizing that, taking advantage of that, and dissecting that information the way that we want to. So if you think about the process of receiving a model file and then being able to generate an estimate from that, very quickly, very easy, very efficiently, we can do that without having to take quantities manually over from one solution to the next. Plus have an audit trail, and then also, because of this blue mark right here, tells us it came from outside the system, we can right-click and go right back to the object that we want to see. So I can show the selected object, and now let's move bridge for a second. Boom, there it is. So let's take it a step further, right? You know, the mapping makes sense where you're mapping the items to the attributes, or the variables to the attributes. Once mapped, always mapped. Well, we want to take advantage of that scenario right there. So now what we can do is we can say, well, let's just go ahead and take off all of these particular items right here. So it's going to go out and find all of our basic walls and send them to the estimate. Now here's the fun thing to do right here is I'm going to hide anything that's been assigned. So when it wraps through these particular items, you'll watch things start to disappear from the model. That's telling us things that are being taken off and sent to estimating. So let's take a look at that. As a matter of fact, this is the first time I've done this on this presentation. I thought it'd be fun to do, though. You'll notice they're grayed out over here, and also they're hidden, but with their walls that we can't see. But watch what happens when we take this off. I'm going to click this button. And as we wrap through that, we're going to start to notice some walls disappearing. See? You can see walls starting to leave because that's an indicator that we've taken those and sent those to the estimating software. So now, as you can see, all 64 have been sent over, and we want to give you a review process that you can say, oh, okay, looks like we sent all of those walls over, and I want to organize it in a different way as well. So I've got 4 walls. There's the 4 walls that we did right there. And then now we've got, of course, the curved walls that we did, and then the rest of the walls as well. Pretty powerful stuff. So now we've hidden everything that we have over there that we've taken off to the estimating. So if you're taking off every element of this model, it's going to be gone when you're done. So next steps. What happens when we get, let's change this, by the way. Now, here's what happens, of course, is when we get started, we always have the next revision, the next rendering of that model. Well, what we want to do is we want to give you the capability to go ahead and compare one model to the next. So if I go out here where I've stored these renderings, you'll notice here's our original one. Here's the rev for that. I'm going to say OK. Now, here is the new updated model right here. Let's move them over. Let's place them in the middle right there, and we're good to go, kind of using the tools of navigating through the Navisworks solution. Now, let's bring over the bridge and kind of show you. It's sad I have to do this on one machine or one window here, one screen, because it kind of things overlap one another. But I think you get the concept of what we're trying to accomplish here. But with that being said, now what we can do is we can go ahead and refresh the information, because what we've just done there is we have compared one model to the next. So. And this is a functionality of eTakeoff, the bridge. It's not a functionality of Navisworks. We built this capability. But this indicator right here is telling me that, hey, this has changed. Well, let's go ahead and make the estimate more relevant and up to date. Well, now we got the length of wall. There's 19. Looks like it increased in size right there. We could change the naming convention and do that if we want. Say changed, and let's go ahead and say changed on, well, let's just say changed and leave it that way. Update the estimate. So now what we've done is we've just updated the estimate with that change. No problem. Pretty easy to do. So as you get more revisions, you can go through the process of updating that to the estimate, and with just a click of a button. At this point within the solution, we'd have to go through each one of these, review them, and send them over. Of course, you see items, basic walls that have been deleted in here, so on and so forth. But in the future, we're going to incorporate the capability to do this more of a all at once. Hey, I have confidence that these have changed. Let's just update the estimate. So pretty powerful stuff. So with that being said, let's just take one more trip back to the estimate and open it up. Let's close this down. And now, over here, of course, we have everything else. Let's combine these items. We have all of the other titles that we put on there for location lined up there, so we can see it the way that we want to break it out. There's some unassigned stuff. And we can very easily go ahead and assign those guys right there. Boom, down there. Done. So when you look at that, though, we can take advantage of the location, or should I say some of the attributes, and create WBS codes locations from those. But if we go into the assembly, what we'll see is my changed one right there. And we've already done this once, but we can review this. And now we can see the original. Here's a reversal, and here's the new pass. I didn't make any notes because we've already seen that as well. But as you can see, very powerful methodology of taking a model, a Revit file, and through Navisworks, go ahead and create an estimate very quickly. So with that being said, that's really what I wanted to show and kind of walk through. So here's the thing is I'm going to jump off as far as the auto is concerned, but I'm going to leave my information up there so you can jot that down. If you have any questions, if you need any additional information or pricing, don't hesitate to give me a holler, and I can definitely answer anything, any questions that you may have. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to sit in this presentation, and hope you have a great afternoon, a great week, and upcoming weekend. Look forward to hearing from you soon.